Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and I am joined once again by the illustrious Brian E. Roach. Brian, what's going on?
I like being known as illustrious. I think I'm going to actually change my name to The Illustrious.
The Illustrious. Brian, the Illustrious, something like that, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that has kind of a ring to it. So, we've had this one on the back burner just a little bit for a while, but CBS Sports, through their CBS Sports HQ Twitter account, had a bunch of their analysts, contributors, whatever, go through every position in the NFL and rank their top 10, their top 10s. And quite a few Steelers showed up on some of these, and quite a few did not, obviously, since it's supposed to be the best of the best. And I thought today this might be fun to actually go through, see some of the names that are on here, see where maybe we agree or disagree, or even where their account says some things that are quite interesting based on some of the rankings. So I guess we're gonna dive right into this, and what better place to start? We always start right at the top. Let's go with quarterbacks. And
sure.
You know what? Ben Roethlisberger shows up in the top 10, and I actually really love this list. So let me read this off. I don't necessarily agree with the list, but I love one part of it. So we're looking at Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs quarterback, who just landed the, baseball contract. I guess you could say I have no problem putting him number one. He just won a Super Bowl. Bright young guy that's doing a lot of amazing things that probably shouldn't be done at the quarterback position. So he's on a tear. If he keeps going, he's definitely gonna be one of the top guys. We've got 2 years into this to see, but I don't have any major disagreements here. But number two, they put Lamar Jackson, and
no, that's wrong.
Yeah, and I know people are still going to say, well, he's not a quarterback, he's a running back. There's a little bit of both going on there, and I know he's a disruptor, but I got to see more. I definitely got to see more. And this was when we were talking about the Ravens last year. We said their season could be like a coin flip, based on how he played and how this system worked. And it worked. We're going to see if it continues to work. Of course, they took our guy from Ohio State that we wanted. We'll see if it still works with Mark Ingram. They still have Justice Hill. I mean, they have a pretty nice team. They've been rebuilding their offensive line, and obviously they won gobs of games. The only difference is I think teams are going to be more prepared for Lamar Jackson. And we're going to see what ends up. We're going to see what happens. He's fast. There's no doubt about it. My favorite, and this is going to be a topic all on its own. We'll get to this eventually because I bring his name up enough as my favorite non-Steelers NFL player, and that's Russell Wilson. Comes in number 3, and I'd love to explain everything why. And it kind of popped into my head that anytime I've ever had a favorite non-Steelers player, they're always in the NFC. Like it's never been really an AFC guy. I don't know if you have anybody that you like or admire outside of that, but we're definitely going to talk about that on a future show, I think.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be short. I might have to get Zach or somebody else because even when we did fantasy football, you guys the listeners out there have to know this. Brian picked all Steelers. Like we're on DraftKings, he picks all Steelers, and Zeke. He picked Zeke the one time. And that's because there wasn't anybody else.
There wasn't anybody else. I don't actually know if I picked Zeke or if Zeke got picked for me. I think that was the year I couldn't get on to do the draft, and I was auto-drafted.
Oh, no. I'm talking about the DraftKings thing, the daily fantasy.
Oh, that's right, DraftKings thing. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was me picking Zeke, and I don't know why I did.
Yeah, we've done those leagues before. Well, you said he was the most tolerable non-Steelers because you needed 2 running backs, and I don't think you could. There was a second Steelers guy you could have feasibly played. That may have even been back when they had Bell. I'm not sure how long ago that was. But anyways, so we got Patrick Mahomes, Larry. Lamar Jackson. Oh boy, I don't know who Larry Jackson is. Maybe he's Michael's. Maybe it's one of the sixth Jackson, the unknown one. All right, Michael's half brother or something. But anyways, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson. Then we have Drew Brees at number 4, Dak Prescott at number 5. Yikes. Yeah, I don't know about that. Deshaun Watson number 6. Matt Stafford, number 7, Carson Wentz, number 8, Tom Brady, number 9, and Ben Roethlisberger ranks in at number 10. And we all know why I like this list, not just because Ben gets a little bit of love here, but because Aaron Rodgers isn't listed.
Yep. Like I said, I get sick of saying Mr. Overrated, but the hell with that. Mr. Overrated. What's he done? Talk about people being on somebody's jock.
Yeah.
The world has been on Aaron Rodgers' jock for a long time. And I don't think that he has the jock to support that kind of attention.
Well, I mean, it's very true, and there's a lot of people who commented on here, and they would prefer leave Ben Roethlisberger off the list, add Aaron Rodgers, add Matt Ryan, and still leave Dak Prescott somewhere like in the top 5. And I'm like, what? No,
24-3, 24-3. No. You don't get on. You don't get on when you're in one Super Bowl and you're up 24-3 and you lose. No, you're out.
Yeah, I mean, others have tried to put Kirk Cousins in here, inserted into the conversation as well. But I will say this. The guy with Kirk Cousins still didn't have Aaron Rodgers in there either. It's always going to be something that people are going to go back and forth on. I've long said that Matt Stafford has had one heck of a career. I don't even know that he's going to get the kind of attention that, let's say, Dan Marino got for being a non-Super Bowl quarterback, because those Lions teams just don't win. But yet he puts up some pretty solid seasons, pretty solid stats. He has a game here or there, just like pretty much everyone else does, where they fall on their face. But here's a guy, he's made a lot of money. He's gonna have a lot of statistical things there. And we talk about, let's say, Phillip Rivers or Eli Manning and where they belong with the Hall of Fame stuff conversation. A lot of people don't talk about Ben, and I understand. I could live with Ben at 10 because he didn't play last year. So Ben even being on this list kind of surprised me, even coming from whatever analysts. And it did surprise me that they bumped Aaron Rodgers off, even though we talk about it all the time. He's really only, like a year or so younger than, you're talking about, hey, we're shoving Eli, the draft class with Eli, Phillip Rivers, and Ben Roethlisberger. We're trying to push these guys all out in the pasture. Aaron Rodgers is like right behind him. He came in the very next class. And unfortunately, Alex Smith, who had been labeled a game manager, had that horrific injury, and he would have been in that same category, but actually still stuck around and had a pretty decent NFL career for what he did. So very interesting list here. I'm not sure. I mean, I wouldn't put any of the rookies out there, and thank God nobody was going with like Baker Mayfield or Joe Burrow on this list to begin with. So let's jump over to running backs.
Wait. I want to say stuff about this list.
Well, I thought you did say stuff about this list. We'll say stuff about the list.
I just interjected my negative comments. First of all, Lamar Jackson at 2. No, I'm sorry.
No.
I mean, he may be the second best quarterback at some point in time, but he's had two years, and no. And I know Mahomes isn't much beyond that, but Mahomes has won consistently where Jackson has failed in certain games. So no, I got no problem with Russell Wilson, no problem with Drew Brees. Get dressed, Dak Prescott. Sorry, no, 1-0, done nothing. Go away from me with that nonsense. I'm okay with Deshaun Watson, but again, hasn't really lived up to the in key elements and key games. I agree with you completely about Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford's put up unbelievable numbers throughout. And again, Carson Wentz, no, sorry, you don't get to be in the top 10 yet. What am I going to do about Brady? Can't complain. And I agree with you. I don't know that Roethlisberger actually belongs on here for last year because he didn't play. If you're looking at this list more as top NFL quarterbacks right now, the way that they say it, if you're looking at it from a standpoint of people who were in the top last year, no, he can't be on there. Top NFL quarterbacks in the league, yeah, then I think he deserves to be on there, and I actually think he deserves to be higher. But that's just my view of things. And Aaron Rodgers does not deserve to be on this list. Screw Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, he'd be very close. I mean, for a top 10, if I'm going to at least take a little homer out of it, I could swap him with Prescott. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
But the rest of the names on here, like you mentioned, Matt Ryan, he's probably on the cusp. We don't know with Phillip Rivers. I've always been hot cold with Phillip Rivers, another guy who's put up a lot of great numbers. But I mean, he threw a lot of picks last year, and I don't know where you go with some of the younger guys like Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield. I don't think they're in the tops yet. Mitchell Trubisky is definitely in the dumps. You can't put guys like Ryan Fitzpatrick up in there. Another young guy we should put on this list too, Gardner Minshew. But where would you put? There's Josh Allen. Here's a riser here. You had Derek Carr, who's been middling. You remember when there was all that stuff from his brother that was saying, Ben wasn't worth it, and that, Derek has gone into obscurity here with the Raiders, even though he didn't necessarily have much of a terrible year last year at all. But it seems like the smoke where there's fire over there in not Oakland now, it's going to be Las Vegas, is that John Gruden's looking for that next guy all the time. And you have a few other outliers. You have Teddy Bridgewater. He's going to be with a new team. You have Ryan Tannehill. Can he sustain what he did last year? You have Jimmy Garoppolo, who isn't mentioned at all here either. It's pretty interesting to see where they went with, or what direction they went with here. Now, you go to the running backs. I am going to go to the running backs now, right? We're good on that?
Yeah, you can go.
I can go to the running backs. You get Christian McCaffrey, number 1, which he might be able to do that for another year or two. We shall see. Zeke is second. Saquon. Somebody had this. It was a tweet. It was who could you name just by names like Saquon and know exactly who you're talking about? Well, I don't know any other Saquons.
I don't either.
And as far as Ezekiel Elliott, he's got to be the Ezekiel right now anywhere, or the Zeke.
He's dead to me version 1.
Derrick Henry, number 4. I mean, he was on a tear. We'll see if he can. The thing with the running backs is the consistency isn't always there.
Right.
Nick Chubb. Okay, I liked Nick Chubb. I'm fair with Nick Chubb.
Here comes one that I got an issue with, though.
Joe Mixon.
The next one I got an issue with. No, get the hell out of here.
As number 6, they could not run the ball at all last year. I mean,
get the hell out of here with that crap.
You know what? Well, I'm going to pull this up. Well, I'm going to say the rest of this, and then I'm going to bring up an interesting stat from last year with one of the Bengals games, because I want to say Andy Dalton was the leading rusher with 6 yards or something like that, or it was Ryan Finley. It was one of the other. They could not run the ball there was a chunk of games there, and I mean they were absolutely putrid. That's why they had the number 1 overall pick. But from Mixon, you go to Chris Carson, which I'm not so sold on. The Seahawks, I think, kind of have a platoon of guys there just to put him in there. Leonard Fournette, who I would not have on this top 10 list either. Todd Gurley, in a Falcons jersey, no less. And then Delvin Cook is number 10. And even their own tweet says, no Alvin Kamara or Josh Jacobs. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that James Conner belongs on this list. But guess who else is missing? No. You know who else is missing? Le'Veon Bell.
He don't belong on this list either.
Oh, come on. Over Joe Mixon, over Chris Carson, over Leonard Fournette.
I don't know.
Todd Gurley.
Do I think that Bell is better than Gurley? Not last year. Do I think Bell's better than Fournette? Not last year. Do I think Bell made any difference to the Jets last year? No.
Oh, no. No.
I don't. I think he was pedestrian at best, which we all said he likely would be. Because they haven't integrated him in correctly yet, and taken advantage of what he does do well. You really do start. There are very few elite running backs in this league, and the biggest miss here is Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara should be in the top 5 on this list, based on who's on this list, right? In my mind, there's just, I don't know. I think people get enamored of what these guys may have done in the past, and that's certainly true of Gurley here.
Oh,
and maybe Fournette, but what I don't really even have. I won't argue with you about Nick Chubb much. Although, again, is he really dominant? No, I don't know.
Well, the Browns fans will jump in here and tell you he didn't have an offensive line last year or even the year before.
Yeah, but I'm just going to go with, if you're a dominant running back, guess what? You don't need one. You still are going to perform even without a dominant offensive line. You need, to be at your peak. Sure, you need the dominant offensive line, but you're still going to perform as a elite running back, even if your offensive line is less than elite.
Well, that's Christian McCaffrey.
Part of the issue here. There you go.
I mean, there's your prime example. That offensive line was ravaged in the preseason, and they were just looking for bodies there in Carolina. Plus, Cam got hurt, and they were just throwing whatever quarterbacks they had there too, and he still did well. So any excuse you make for Chubb. The problem with Chubb is 8 touchdowns for me. You look at Derrick Henry; he had 16. Okay, Chubb almost had 1,500 yards rushing. Great, but in that, he only had 8 touchdowns. Derrick Henry had 16. McCaffrey had 15. Zeke had 12. You have several other guys with double digits, such as Delvin Cook with 13. Aaron Jones, who's a 1,000-yard rusher with Green Bay, who's not on this list, had 16. And Mark Ingram with the Ravens, a 1,000-yard rusher as well, had 10. Gurley did have 12, but Gurley only ran for 857 yards. He had 223 carries. He was getting like 3.8 yards per carry. That's far less than Alvin Kamara, who had 797 yards. We're talking about 50, 60 yards difference here, but Kamara was doing 4.7, and Kamara also brings the receiving threat. Bell fell off the face of the planet he scored 3 touchdowns on the ground, 3.2 yards an attempt. Didn't have the quarterback play, didn't have the line play, et cetera there. I was actually kind of surprised here. I think quietly, Miles Sanders with 818 yards rushing here. You got guys like David Montgomery, but you had 16 1,000-yard rushers. They put Saquon right at the top, and Saquon is the 16th guy with 1,003. He barely crossed the finish line there. 6 touchdowns. I mean, it's really hard to put him as high as they put him. That seems like a legacy-type pick, like you say, when you got a guy like Carlos Hyde who's never been appreciated in the NFL for his style and somehow still churns out respectable numbers. He had 1,070 with 6 TDs. Marlon Mack was in there too with the Colts. Not exactly the best situation throughout the year with everyone that they were with. But yeah, Josh Jacobs being left off of here. And then, of course, Lamar Jackson ran for 1,206 yards and had 7 touchdowns, which was still more than anything that Saquon did as well. It's a really bitter pill to swallow, I think, when you see some of the way these rankings are made.
Yeah, look, the running back one, I'll tell you what it does for me more than anything else. Proves to me that running backs are not as important as they think they are.
Maybe. Contractually, they sure aren't either. Trying to find this. I'm really trying to find the statistics here that I was looking for. Oh, here it is. I found. Wow, it was just by luck. It was Week 7 against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who decent defense, but not a great team last year. Andy Dalton, 4 carries for 33 yards. Joe Mixon, 10 carries for 2. And then Gio Bernard, 4 carries for 0, and Alex Erickson had 2 carries for -2 yards. That was the feeble rushing attempt by the Cincinnati Bengals in their crew. And as I pull up some more of these stats, I'm going to find just a little bit more not only Mixon's breakdowns, but I'm going to find the actual, looking at it right here. This is pretty bad. The 2019 Cincinnati Bengals. So this is from week 1 all the way through rushing yards. 34 as a team. This is as a team. This isn't just Mixon. 34, 25, 66, 73, 108, 33, 33, 104 bye week. 157 against the Ravens, which is pretty interesting. 173, 86, 44, 179, 164, 59, 179. So they kind of figured it out somewhere along the line. But it was very putrid for a very long time there. And it just really surprised me. Yeah, he busted off some bigger games. I'm trying to bring up his entire game log here. But, I mean, he had some games, 6 carries for 10 yards, 11 for 17, 15 for 60. I mean, 8 for 10, 10 for 2. That was that Jacksonville game. And then he had 4 100-yard games all season. He only scored in 4 games all year as well as far as rushing. And he had 3 touchdowns receiving. That's just not elite enough for me. I'm sorry. Especially when you got dynamic players like Kamara. If you're at least going to say legacy or put something in the back of your brain, his name's got to jump on the page. And I would go with a few of these younger guys as well. But enough with the running backs. Let's go to wide receivers, which is fun. because we have a legacy pick here. Although, you know what? He didn't have... I poo-poo on him all the time because he was always being compared with Antonio Brown. That's Julio Jones comes in second behind Michael Thomas of the Saints. Michael Thomas is just he's the alpha male right now, I would say. Yeah. So Julio's second, Tyreek Hill third, DeAndre Hopkins fourth, which, he's a dominant player. That guy's never had a quarterback that's thrown to him. Devonte Adams, fifth. Okay, Devonte puts it up. Amari Cooper, he's shown some real promise. Mike Evans is an intriguing guy for me because it just seems like he should put up and do a lot more than he did, and I would place a lot of the labels I put on Julio before on Mike Evans as well. Keenan Allen, also a guy that seems like he could anything that's thrown his way. The size of these guys' hands, too. You ever see Michael Thomas's hands? Holy crap, man. Yep. I mean, he could catch, he could catch like anything that's thrown his direction. Chris Godwin, so you get another Buccaneer on here. And then number 10 is Odell Beckham Jr., who isn't even better than his other guys on his team, namely Jarvis Landry. That's the one I would leave off for sure. Again, the year that Juju Smith-Schuster had last year, I don't expect him to creep into this top 10 either. No. I'm going to look at some of these names here, and this is what's tough too, is because you got a guy like Christian McCaffrey who is second in the league in receptions. So it goes Michael Thomas, McCaffrey, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins, Julian Edelman, fifth overall in receptions last year, surprisingly. Julio, who had 99 catches, 1,394 yards, but only those 6 TDs. Allen Robinson somehow is somewhere here with the receptions too, and a 1,000-yard receiver. And Cooper Kupp, Tyler Boyd, Robert Woods, DJ Moore, and then you get down here and Godwin's on here. Devonte Adams is on here. He wasn't a 1,000-yard receiver. He missed it by 3 yards. Jarvis Landry, who had 1,174 on 83. You have Tyler Lockett. There's a lot of interesting names that pop in here because you got a lot of running backs who are, stealing receptions, stealing receiving yards. Odell Beckham was 28th in the entire league last year. I mean, he's only 2 catches more than somebody like Devontae Parker, who not only had more receiving yards, but also had more touchdowns and played for the Miami Dolphins. Whew.
Yeah.
Tough sell.
Yeah, look, there's a name here that in my mind should be on this list based on what, most current performance, and that's Kenny Gallaudet.
Yeah.
But, that I think is a leave off. Cooper Kupp, I could take him or leave him. To me, he's probably a second tier guy. Even though he's putting up, the kind of numbers that are better than some of the guys on this list. Look, Odell Beckham Jr. is on this list because of that one catch. That's it. His whole career is made off of one damn catch. And yes, can he be a dynamic receiver? Sure he can. Does he have talent? Absolutely he does. Does he live up to his reputation? Not a chance. Not even close. And Browns fans, you can kiss my you-know-what, but that's the truth.
It is. I mean, Tyreek Hill, he missed some games last year, too. So you assume if he plays the whole season, then maybe things are a little different. Jarvis Landry did play an entire season. And where did my guy Beckham go? I just had him in this list. Oh, he fell off the face of the planet because I started sorting by touchdowns.
Oh, yeah, he's nowhere in that list. He's like, what, 932nd or something?
Well, if I spell his name right, he's 69th. Nice. Tied for
sweet.
Well, it's 69th, but then it's sorted whatever. So there's 65 guys who scored at least 5 touchdowns or more in the NFL last year, including guys like Philip Dorsett, even Mark Ingram, who you wouldn't even think would be a guy who caught touchdown passes. And Odell played all 16 games. I mean, T.Y. Hilton missed 6 games last year, had 5 TDs, and had half as many receiving yards. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I don't have any Steelers guys that I can go to bat for here though for a top 10. And you mentioned Gallaudet, and Gallaudet led all receivers with 11 touchdowns too. It wasn't like anyone really. The ball got spread around a lot last year, and particularly a lot of tight ends and running backs too. In this mix, whenever you're just looking at receiving leaders in the NFL, where do you put DK Metcalf? 900 yards, 58 catches, 7 TDs.
Yeah, you can't put him in the top 10, but you put him again. You have to wait and see. With especially, it bothers me when rookies immediately go into the top area. 1 year is 1 year. You got to wait until you've got a couple years of quality stuff.
Body of work.
Yeah, body of work. I just think that there are guys who live off their reputation, and everybody thinks they're better than they are. Odell Beckham is the Aaron Rodgers of the receiving world.
Yeah, that's a fair comparison. Well, where do you put Julian Edelman in this? I mean, he constantly gets it done. I don't like the guy necessarily, but you
can't argue
fair?
with his production. Yeah, you can't argue with his production. It's been there. Let's see what happens when it's not Tom Brady throwing him the ball, and see how he does. But at the same time, you have to give him credit for the production. Could he have been a top 10 guy? Maybe. You could kind of see sliding him in there over the guys that are in there over Beckham. Sure. I'd put him in there over Beckham Jr. right now. Not based on the level of talent that the guys actually have from a standpoint of potentiality, but from what they've actually done. Sorry. Terry McLaurin outperformed Odell Beckham Jr. last year. Give me a break.
Well, you know what? And he was on fire for a small stretch there in quarterback play, and just the Redskins stinking kind of took the toll on that. And if I'm not mistaken, he got hampered with an injury as well. Several games. He's an interesting name to kind of bring up here. I had actually pulled up Chris Godwin just to kind of see. Because Chris Godwin doesn't come to mind as a guy that's a very consistent performer. And in fact, here we go. I know he made a Pro Bowl, 1,300 yards receiving, 9 touchdowns, third year in the league. He hasn't had the body of work to say. I would guess maybe the tail end of 2018, if I were to look at those numbers, maybe they link together and give us a better picture. I'm not going to go that deep into it, to be honest, because, this is all us just talking anyways. So, but Terry McLaurin, for example, 919 yards, 7 touchdowns. He had 58 receptions on 93 targets. I imagine a lot of those weren't his fault that he was dropping them, but he was on fire for a short period of time there, and he played 14 games, so he did get banged up at some point here. Not exactly sure where it was. Go ahead.
Fewer games, more yards, more touchdowns. The only thing Beckham had over him is the number of receptions. And I'm sorry. See, that's what I mean. Odell Beckham Jr. did not outperform my jock, last year. He just didn't. So there's no way, shape, or form he deserves to be in that top 10 list.
Well, it's going to get more interesting when we go to the tight ends, Brian, because
I know, because number 5 shouldn't be there either.
Well, this is true. So Travis Kelce, number 1, George Kittle, number 2. I guess you could take or leave that. Flip a coin if you want. Zach Ertz has gotten it done. I believe he belongs there. Mark Andrews has surprised us all. We made fun of – he wasn't even the first tight end drafted by the Ravens there, and you weren't expecting him to be the guy to rise to this occasion, and there he is, and he has all the stats to prove it and back it up. Gronk at number 5 after being on a layoff for a year and being banged up, barely able to play, and not being Gronk prior to that is –
That's legend. That's legend. That's what that is. It's all it is.
Stretch of the imagination. Darren Waller's getting some love and some attention. In fact, anything outside of this top 5 is kind of hard to justify. Jared Cook with the Saints. Austin Hooper, who signed the rich contract with the Browns. He's just going to be the second coming and walk on water here, too. Tyler Higbee with the Rams. The Rams, I was still thinking even Gerald Everett that's there that got drafted a few years ago. That was a guy that was on my radar with the Steelers. And then Hunter Henry, here's a guy that can't stay healthy but would be an absolute beast. He would be, they would talk about the same way we stick with centers and stick with head coaches in Pittsburgh. Well, the Chargers would have been the same way, passing the torch from Antonio Gates to Hunter Henry if he stays healthy. You know what I mean? So This is just another one of these lists where I got to speculate and put up. I got to get Austin Hooper's numbers here. I know he had some decent numbers. He was a guy that I was like, he looks interesting in that Falcons offense, but I don't know that he's done enough to necessarily justify everything that's been going on here. Let me see. I had Hunter Henry. He missed 4 games last year. He missed all of 2018. He missed a portion of a game and 2 entire other ones in 2017, and of course was banged up in 2016 and missed some time too. He's a guy that's only had 1,709 yards in 3 seasons with 1 completely missed. He's had 17 touchdowns though. It's kind of like Tyler Eifert, a guy that could get it done if they're on the field. And it's the big if. That's the big question mark, the asterisk next to him. Austin Hooper, okay, he's caught 71 and 75 balls the last 2 seasons. He's been in the Pro Bowl. 660 yards, 787. His yards per reception is 9.3 and 10.5. 4 touchdowns and 6 touchdowns, so 10 touchdowns over 2 seasons. He missed 3 games last year. He played in all 16 the previous year. So he's on the field. He's definitely a guy that's targeted, but he doesn't score touchdowns. He doesn't seem to get a lot of yards or a lot of yak at all. And I bet you if I pulled up some yak here, Brian, you remember who caught it? Some Jesse James love here. Jesse James was in that range of like 8.7, 8.7, 8.9 of guys that don't necessarily have a whole lot of yards per reception. And I understand tight ends aren't necessarily known to be burners or do anything of that nature, but you put a guy like Kelce out here. Kelce has a career average of 12.8 yards per reception. That's 3 to 4 yards average per catch more than Austin Hooper, and everybody's making a big deal of Austin Hooper. You got a guy like, here's a guy, my Chris Collinsworth. Here's a guy in Oakland. Darren Waller has been averaging 12.7 yards per reception as well. I imagine if I put George Kittle up here, George Kittle is just insane and forever will be the guy that Eric Herman can hang his hat on as being right about the Steelers passing on and other teams, obviously, too. Kittle is at 13.6. I mean, these guys, those are the real numbers. Hooper, for me, putting up just marginally better numbers than Jesse James doesn't necessarily impress me. And I would even venture to say that Vance Mcdonald, now I'm not going to bat for Vance Mcdonald or Eric Ebron to be on this list. Vance Mcdonald didn't have much to show for last season. He played in 14 games. Don't tell me, he's hurt, he's not on there. Quarterback play had a lot to do with it. Vance McDonald's numbers with the Steelers, first 2 seasons, 13.4, 12.2. He dropped to 7.2 last season. He only caught 38 balls. So I understand he only caught 14 in 2017, but he caught 50 when he had a healthy Ben in 2018, 12.2. So Austin Hooper, for me, I don't get it. And then you got, I won't go into David Njoku demanding a trade, and then people immediately, he becomes available, Brian, and we got the other Steelers sites and stuff saying, hey,
you got to get him.
Got to go get this guy. He would be absolutely perfect. Yeah, we could put 3 tight ends on the field. You know, it's just, yeah, okay. I understand everybody wants the Ravens offense and, that dynamic, but Ben's not going to be running around out there and doing the little bootleg thing. It's like an RPO, but it's a quarterback keeper too. You know what I mean? So I'm going to get off the Austin Hooper thing right here. It's just for me to have him into that top 10 and Gronk, it just doesn't fit. And I'm sure a few of these other guys might not be either. Maybe it was just a real stretch of the imagination to get any of them to really to fit into this type of ranking, because you got some receiving tight ends. You've got some guys that have completely fallen off the face of the planet too. When you're talking about, Jimmy Graham, for example, the old guard. That's where I kind of, when I look at something with Gronk, I just don't see it the same way. There's some other guys that potentially could have been in this same list. Tight ends aren't necessarily always lighting up the board with a lot of scores. Dallas Goedert with Philadelphia Eagles. It's hard because you got guys like Greg Olsen or Jason Witten that were part of that old guard too that you can't necessarily include in some of this. Jack Doyle, who they didn't have the quarterback play necessarily last year either, 448 yards. It's not the most impressive. So what exactly do you do with some of this stuff that's here? TJ Hawkinson looked like he was going to have a great year and then only finished with 32 catches and 367 yards. You know what I mean? O.J. Howard, a lot of people think we're rising, 34 catches. So a lot of times your tight ends are only going to be in that 30 to 50 range. And it depends on if you're playing multiple tight end sets and things of that nature. it becomes very difficult, I think, to get outside of that top 5. But for me, I'm still not adding Hooper or Gronk to that list.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you 100% there. I was going to say you really got the top 4, maybe the top 5 if you move Waller up, and then the rest of them you kind of are hitting and missing. But Gronkowski simply is there because of his past history, and the fact that they think that teaming him up with Brady in Tampa Bay is going to bring him back to being Gronkowski of old. And I don't, maybe it will. Maybe he'll have a great season, and we'll all go, okay, gosh, I guess we were wrong.
Yeah, they'll retire again.
There's a certain amount of damage your body can take, and even though you might feel better, the first couple times you start to get beat up, those nagging injuries come right back. I just don't buy that his back is going to be back to where he can take a full season worth of contact and damage. We'll see. I don't wish ill. Well, yeah, I do. I don't like Gronkowski. Screw him.
Bit of a showboat, and they've got plenty of other tight end support there. We'll see. It's Bruce Arians. You never know. We're going to lump these a little together. We got interior offensive linemen. The Colts, Quentin Nelson. Cowboys, Zach Martin. Jason Kelsey of the Eagles. Joe Thuney of the Patriots. Brandon Scherf comes in 5th with the Redskins. David DeCastro is 6th. There's a guy that needs to be in the top 10. I would even maybe put him in the top 5. 2 Buccaneers show up here. Ryan Jensen, Ali Marpet. You got Joel Bitonio of the Browns, number 9. Maybe their best offensive lineman, I don't know. And then Rodney Hudson of the Raiders closes up at number 10. When we go over to the tackles, David Bakhtiari of the Packers, number 1. Ronnie Stanley, number 2. Tyron Smith, number 3. Ryan Ramczyk, number 4. Mitchell Schwartz, 5th. Trent Williams, who got recently traded over to the 49ers, 6th. Teron Armstead, these guys are all beasts, and 2 of them are Saints on this list. He's at 7. Lane Johnson at 8. Laramie Tunsil, 9th to the Texans, which I'm not sure. Is Bill O'Brien still trading a lot of stuff for some of these guys? And then Lyle Collins with the Cowboys. There's a lot of love for multiple teams here in these lists. Oh, you know what? Did I pass over centers, or do I not have centers? You know what? At that time,
centers are considered interior line.
Oh, that's right.
They?
No, I think they had them. They had them differently here, I believe. So now I got to go and search for that. I don't know that they had the centers thing up. We're based this off of an article I wrote that was probably published like a week or 2 ago anyways. So I'm going to go and try and find that just to add to the conversation, because we know, even though we've talked about Marquise Pouncey and low snaps, we know he belongs in there, but I don't know that you could justify any of the other Steelers, including Alejandro Villanueva. And we talked kind of ad nauseum with this on the last show too.
Yeah, look, I mean, DeCastro, I believe belongs in the top 10. I believe Pouncey belongs in the top 10. Could Ramon Foster be sliding close to that? I don't know. Probably not. I mean, he might be in the top 20 for last year and the work he's done. He's done good work. Ramon Foster was a more than suitable guard. But you're not going to put either one of the Steelers tackles in there for what they've done recently or what they've done overall. They're not that good. They're not bad, right? And as a unit, they are better than they are as their individual parts. But you can't put Villanueva in here, and you can't put Filer in here. It's not fair to say they belong in that rank of tackles. And I don't know that even at his best. I mean, Villanueva gets a lot of credit because of his story, and deservedly so. There's no disrespect intended there. I got my Alejandro Villanueva signed full-size helmet sitting up there. I'm in. I'm all in on Alejandro Villanueva. But, the people who think he's a Pro Bowl caliber or an all-pro level tackler don't watch him play well enough, because he's not. He's good enough. He's very serviceable. He's a very great story, and he gets way more recognition than he probably deserves because of that for his play. He gets more recognition for his play than he deserves because of his story. His story deserves all the recognition you can give it, but that shouldn't impact whether he's a Pro Bowl guy or not.
No, I agree with that. And they did throw these guys together, by the way, because Jason Kelsey, I'm drawing a brain fart here, is a center. So,
there you go.
And isn't Ryan Jensen as well? I'm sorry, I'm not giving the offensive linemen their due. But, I glossed over it real quick, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. A few of these guys do play center, and it's like, it is what it is. I think if you're going to have multiple guys from the same team, you can't tell me Joe Bitonio is better than Marquise Pouncey. That's number one. I have enough intimate knowledge. Now, Quentin Nelson, Zach Martin, Jason Kelsey, Joe Thuney, Brandon Scherf, David DeCastro, probably Jensen. I don't know enough about Ali Marpet, to be completely honest. I don't know enough about Rodney Hudson. I know enough about Joel Bitonio to say the Browns' offensive line is always highly overrated every single year. They think that, I think, this will come under fire too. I think Joe Thomas is pretty much overrated, and that doesn't come from me directly. My uncle, longtime hardcore Browns fan, approaching, his 70s here. He's followed them all his life, and he was like, what did he ever do besides get a bunch of holding penalties? And I would have to look that up, but he's never been too impressed with him. So I'm just saying I'm repeating words from a fellow Browns fan there, a lifelong one. He's never been impressed with the offensive line. That's pretty much where I'm going at.
I will just tell you, it's very difficult to judge an individual offensive lineman when the rest of the offensive line stinks.
Absolutely.
And I will tell you that I think the professor will back me up on this. Joe Thomas was really good.
Well, I think I just can't stand him post career now. He bailed.
Now he's a pain in the ass now. But as a player, he was really good.
Yeah, except for when he played against Pittsburgh. But anyways, and that's because all the guys around him were good. That's usually what happens. Anyways, he'll be in the Hall of Fame. I'm being somewhat facetious and homerish here. I'll go off the deep end with a really hot take there. In fact, if I was on the CBS Sports HQ, this would be getting retweeted 10,000 times if I were working for them to say something about Joe Thomas like that. But I'll put it this way: I would have taken him on our team. That's and that's
absolutely
that's the barometer. You know who else I would take on our team here, Brian? Aaron Donald. We're going into the defensive lineman. Number one. There isn't even a chance. everybody else should be tied for like third or fourth here. You get Chris Jones, Kenny Clark, Grady Jarrett, Fletcher Cox, DeForest Buckner, Cam Hayward. Man, Cam is finally getting love. It's about damn time. You know what I mean? Calais Campbell, J.J. Watt, Javon Hargrave sneaks in at number 10. That's an interesting one. Yeah, that's an interesting one, man. It's, we love him. Let's see what he does as a full-time guy now on the defensive line. He was practically that last year with Stephon Tuitt's injury, so I could see that. The rest of these guys, it's like J.J. Watt, a little bit of legacy there. He's got to stay healthy.
Yeah, I think so.
He's got to stay healthy.
He's had a tough couple years with consistent, like really catastrophic type injuries.
Yeah.
I get it. But I don't think J.J. Watt is J.J. Watt anymore. I think he's a guy that has that name, and he's not the same kind of guy he was when he was winning, Defensive Player of the Year awards. And I will tell you, I think Cam should be 4.
Yeah, I'd put him into the top 5 for sure.
Yeah, he should be 4. Look, I'll take Cam over DeForest Buckner. I'll take Cam over Fletcher Cox after what I saw Fletcher Cox do last year. Maybe not Fletcher Cox of a couple years ago, but right now, yeah, absolutely. And I'll take Cam over Grady Jarrett.
Yeah. I can't disagree with anything of what you're saying there. And I was pulling up the J.J. Watt statistics. 8 games last year. He played the full season the year before. Whenever he's played a full season, he's a first-team All-Pro practically. So, but he had a few seasons there. 2016, he only played 3 games. 2017, 5 games. That's really tough, man. But then again, that outlier is 2018. He had 16 sacks. He had 4 sacks in 8 games last year. And worked his butt off to get back and play too. So the guy, those Watt guys, there's something in the water. Whatever Mama Watt was feeding them.
I like the idea. I'm all on board with bringing JJ to the Steelers at some point in time so that we can have a Watt trilogy. Let him finish out his career if the Texans aren't going to give him enough love.
Bill O'Brien. Trade a 6th round pick.
Yeah, we'll give him hell. Why would we give him that much? Give him a 7.
He'll take it. Deal.
Yeah, deal done. We'll take JJ and be fine. But yeah, I still think he's not the player he was, and until he can put together that a consistent season again, and show that he is, it's hard to say. I just don't know that I think he deserves top 10 anymore.
Well, let's see who does. That's from that same family. Maybe we'll get
this one's a no-brainer.
The gigawatt sometimes, but edge rushers. TJ Watt comes in number 1 overall. Number 2, I don't agree with this one. Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett over Chandler Jones, Cameron Jordan, Joey Bosa, Shaq Barrett, Danielle Hunter, Zadarius Smith, Khalil Mack is number 9, Nick Bosa is number 10. I've been trying to tell people for a few years to compare. I understand Khalil Mack, probably another thing with situation, but Bud Dupree had as good of a year last year.
Yeah. Let's talk about it like this: 7 sacks, 13.5 sacks, 10 sacks. That's Myles Garrett. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm not that impressed. I'm sorry. I'm not that impressed. For the guy that was the number 1 overall pick, that was going to change the game, that was the second coming of Jadeveon Clowney in the sense of athletic potentiality. No. Look, is he good? Yes, he's very good. Is he number 2? Or whatever number he is right there? What was he? I forget.
Number 2, Myles Garrett.
Yeah, no, overall. Screw that. He's not number 2.
Yeah,
no. Over Nick Bosa and Joey Bosa, considering the seasons that they've had? No, get the hell out of here. Over Chandler Jones?
And Cameron
Jordan?
Chandler Jones was right in there with the same discussion of whether TJ Watt should be defensive MVP. And he received some votes. I mean, it's nonsense. That's nonsense.
I'm telling you, people get on a guy and they just refuse to get off the guy. Myles Garrett came in with all the hoopla, going to change the world, going to make the Browns the most dominant defense in the world. Hadn't happened. Sorry, hasn't happened. And I don't fear Myles Garrett right now. So maybe I will down the road, but right now I don't fear Myles Garrett. I don't fear him at all. So he doesn't belong there. Sorry.
I can't disagree with you. And just to back up my hot air with Bud Dupree, 4 forced fumbles, 3 pass deflections, 11.5 sacks, 68 combined tackles. Those numbers are all in line or better than Khalil Mack's regression in 2019. Khalil Mack, 4 pass deflections, 5 forced fumbles, so 1 more. 1 fumble recovery, 8.5 sacks, 47 tackles. Sounds like that guy. Yeah. There's been adjustments by the teams that are playing him. There's something else going on in that defense, or he's regressed for some other reason. Top 10 guy? Probably still. I'm not trying to say Bud Dupree belongs in this top 10 list. I'm just trying to make it comparative here.
I'll say it.
You think so?
I'd put him at 10. I think there are more than one guy in this list that he outperformed last season, and the expectation when you look at his career path is that he'll be better again. You got guys that are on the downswing in this list, and as opposed to on the upswing. And when you look at it like that, yeah, I'll say that Bud Dupree deserves to be right around the bottom of the list. Like if somebody said, okay, Bud Dupree's 11, I wouldn't complain that much. But look, I think Bud Dupree and TJ Watt could potentially be a terrifying duo this season. And I think he should at least have been in conversation to be in this top 10.
Well, Shaquille Barrett leads the league in sacks with 19.5 going to the Buccaneers last year after 5 years with the Denver Broncos, of which he only had 14. You talk about, is there enough there? Was it the change of scenery? I don't know. That was a half sack more than what Chandler Jones ended up having. Cameron Jordan, 15.5. Danielle Hunter, 14.5, the same as TJ Watt. Darius Smith, 1 behind. The main difference here is just the type of, I guess you would say, home wrecker that TJ Watt is. He picked off passes. He forced a fumble. He forced 8 fumbles, man. Who does that? I mean, that is just that's. I'm not saying it was 1 per game. It could have been. I'd have to go back and look. But if you go, there's only 16 games and he had 8 forced fumbles. That's just that's insane. And Chandler Jones is right there with him too. So it's very interesting. it's just interesting to see where people put people. And TJ Watt being at top, if somebody would have said TJ wasn't at top, he would have had to have been number 2. I think Chandler Jones is the only guy I would have put right in there. The Bosa's being at 5 and 10 is kind of surprising. I'm going to get off, quit beating a dead horse here about Myles Garrett. You said everything and nailed it right on the head there. Let's go to linebackers. Not that I expect to see Devin Bush in this list, and he's not. There is no edge rushers. This is just strictly linebackers. Bobby Wagner of the Seahawks. Okay, Bobby Wagner's pretty darn good. So is Eric Kendricks, Darius Leonard, Demario Davis, C.J. Mosley ends up on here, which I think is a little bit of legacy maybe too. He missed quite a bit of time last year. Levante David, Leighton Vander Esch. There's a guy that the Steelers were trying to target. Roquan Smith, Fred Warner, there's another one that Eric's upset about after all these years, and Tremaine Edmonds, who went in.
That's the one I'm upset about. There you go.
What's that? Tremaine? Tremaine wasn't going to.
I know he was never going to be there, but I wanted Tremaine Edmonds.
And as a lot of people like myself wanted LVE too, and he's lived up with the Cowboys, and that's where the Steelers had many issues, trying to find that replacement for Ryan Shazier. Finally got it with Devin Bush. I would expect Devin Bush to kind of sneak in here next year.
Hopefully. That's what you would expect, a good, solid second year. Look, I don't even know that I agree with this list, although this one is probably, of the ones that we've looked at, the one I have the least quibbles with. Yes. I just don't know. I didn't think C.J. Mosley was that dominant last year. I didn't think Leighton Vander Esch was that dominant last year. I'm not going to argue with Bobby Wagner at all. He's really good. I'm not going to argue that much about Eric Kendricks. I won't argue about Darius Leonard, although I think maybe it's a little high, but not. I still think he belongs in the top 10. So I just don't know. I don't know that there's a lot of people in this list I would really quibble about. So of the list, this is the one I have the least complaint with.
Well, I don't really have much complaints with if you jump over to the corners. You got Stephon Gilmore.
Oh, I do.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's number 2, and it's kind of interesting to see Stephon Gilmore 1, Marcus Peters number 2. Sorry, that's just not. That's not crickets.
Wrong.
Joe Hayden number 3.
Can't complain.
I think
I might even say I think it's too high.
I was going to say the same thing. Took the words right out of my mouth. Jalen Ramsey 4, Patrick Peterson 5, Byron Jones 6. Tre'Davious White 7, Xavier Howard 8. Xavier's like way down there, man. If anything, he's got to go a little higher there and sneak into that top 10. Chris Harris Jr., I don't know if that's more of a legacy pick there or not. Marshawn Lattimore sneaks in at the very end here at number 10. Marcus Peters for me is a no-go, man. I mean, if you want to put him in the top 10, that's fine. The guy somehow lucks out and gets some turnovers and whatnot. I've just always had a problem with him. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. I guess it's when you see him like be real lazy and not make tackles and give up on plays. For me, that's not a top 10 player. Look, I just don't think he belongs there. I don't really have a problem with Marcus Peters. Hell, I wanted Marcus Peters on the Steelers at the time when he was in the draft. I wanted them to draft Marcus Peters. Despite the potential character issues that existed, despite the fact that we all knew he was going to take some plays off and be lazy at times. But because I think he has talent, and I thought the Steelers could help keep him in line. But the teams he's been with, no. I mean, look, what is this? Is it his third team since he's come into the league already? And it's not a question of his capabilities. It's just that he's not. Look, Marcus Peters is a me player. I'm sorry, he just is, and I don't think anything has convinced me otherwise. And I don't put that guy there. I don't put him as number 2. I don't think that that's where he belongs. But no, I'm going to say it before you. I'm going to say this before you do. Steven Nelson should have been on this damn list. Oh, man, Steven Nelson needs to sneak in somewhere there, and we're getting up against it. I'm just going to mention real quickly that Chris Boswell showed up on the kicker list at number 6 before we jump into the safeties. This is some more Super Bowl love here. Tyrann Mathieu, number 1. you can't argue. I mean, he transformed that defense. He was a major cog. Minkah Fitzpatrick, number 2, obviously deserving. Jamal Adams, Harrison Smith, Anthony Harris. So you got a pair of Vikings there, as they should be there. Justin Simmons, Devin McCourty, Derwin James, Kevin Byard.
Don't say number 10 yet. Don't say it yet.
And
don't say it. Because number 10, it's a big shock. It's Terrell Edmonds. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Everybody is amazed. No, it's Earl Thomas. But still,
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with Minkah being the second one. Whether he should be first or not based on last season, I'm not going to argue that. Yeah, you get a little credit for winning the Super Bowl. So it's fine. I don't really have any complaints with this list either.
No, I really don't. And I until he knocked out Mason Rudolph, I did like Earl Thomas as a player.
Yeah, I know.
It's just one of those things. So we'll see. Kevin Byard. Derwin James, we got 1 year on Derwin James, right? Kevin Byard maybe should be higher. I don't know. But it's really tough to go outside that top 5. And the Vikings with their pair of guys, those guys have been consistent nonstop. So, and it shouldn't come to any surprise. I already said the kicker. There was no punter from the Steelers on the list, and I don't even know how you get into judging some of the specialists. Of course, Justin Tucker was number 1, but we'll just leave it at that. Brian, hey man, thanks for joining me once again, and hanging and banging here, and we'll see how this goes going forward and how many more topics we could squeeze out. Thank you to CBS Sports HQ for giving us something to talk about at least.
Absolutely. It's always nice to have things to talk about. And then, I got to be honest. I haven't looked at our commentary from the last show yet. So I don't know if anybody wants to see me jump off this hotel or not. But, we'll see. Maybe we'll have bonus footage at the end of the next podcast that we after we get back from vacation of me jumping off the hotel. We'll see.
We're going to need audio for the audio listeners, or maybe we'll do a play-by-play. Here's Brian.
There you go.
It's going to be like diving, like with the swimming stuff in the Olympics, the approach or whatever. That's what we're going to hear. And then it'll be like or something. You have a GoPro?
I do. I will be bringing my GoPro with me. Absolutely.
Wow, that'll be interesting. So, well, folks, we're up against it. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. My name is Joe. His name is Brian. And until next time, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.